found a plain just SD card that she said when she played it in her phone looked like it was a phone video of a murder. And she wants to get it to you guys.
This call was placed on September 30th, 2019. What started as a simple case of stolen property quickly spiraled into one of the most horrifying murder discoveries in Alaska's history. A woman, unknowingly snatching an SD card from a man, found herself staring into pure evil, graphic footage of a brutal killing. But the real nightmare? The victim was someone she knew.
She said she was going to the liquor store, she's gonna get a bottle, and she had to go meet up with somebody. That must have been him, because that was the last time I ever saw her.
Brian Stephen Smith lived a life of deception. To his wife, he was a devoted husband. To his colleagues at Marriott Hotel, a generous man with a passion for vlogging. To his mistress, a dark and twisted enigma. But to his victims, he was a self-proclaimed serial killer, one who inflicted unimaginable horror before stealing their last breath. And it was all hidden in that one tiny SD card. That tiny piece of evidence would finally rip the mask off the monster. But even with him behind bars, a chilling question remains. Could there be more victims we don't know about?
I do not remember this.
On the videos, on several of them.
Yeah.
In my movies, sadly, everybody dies. Shit, what are my followers going to think of you? People need to know when they're being serial killed. These are things you're saying to her while you're doing that.
Why would I say that? That's stupid to say things like that.
By all accounts, Smith was the kind of guy who looked like your everyday American neighbor, the type no one would ever suspect of anything sinister. And everyone, I mean everyone, vouched for his normalcy. Even his wife stood by his innocence, refusing to believe he was capable of such horror, even after he was sentenced. But one night, as Smith cruised the streets looking for company, he picked up a woman, seemingly offering her a ride and a warm place to stay. While he stepped into a store, she sat alone in his car, her curiosity leading her to pick up a cell phone he had left behind. What she found inside would shake her to the core. A folder titled Homicide at Marriott Hotel Midtown. Inside that folder was a collection of horrifying photos and videos, gruesome evidence of a woman's desperate cries for help. The footage showed her gasping for air as a man mercilessly filmed himself violating her, stomping on her throat while her body lay battered and broken.
What the f*** must my followers think about you if I have to take it? Okay, there we go.
The SD card contained 39 images and 12 videos, all documenting the same horrifying incident. We have legally obtained these files from law enforcement, and there is no denying that they are brutally graphic. The footage revealed extreme violence and a brutal sexual assault against a woman inside what appeared to be a hotel room. The man behind the camera never showed his face, but his voice was clear. He strangled the woman as she fought back, scratching at him, trying to break free. At one point, he complained that his hand was getting tired. Instead of stopping, he began stomping on her neck, pressing down with his full weight.
Oh, for f***'s sake. Are you still alive? Yes. It's been like, what, 20 minutes? So, I think it's time we finish this fucking job, bitch.
At one point, the woman was already lifeless when the man took a cord and strangled her again, leaving anyone who saw the clip haunted for days. However, the images that followed were even more disturbing. They showed the woman's lifeless body on the floor, naked, battered, and brutalized. The man had even taken close-up photos of her genitals and her severely beaten face, as if documenting his crime with no remorse. The timestamps on the files revealed they were recorded on September 4, 2019, less than a month before the SD card was discovered. For a city like Anchorage, this was beyond disturbing. Despite being Alaska's largest city, It has a population of just under 300,000, a place where people know their neighbors, where violent crimes of this magnitude are rare. By the way, I post true crime and new cases here every week, so if that sounds like your kind of thing, please consider subscribing. It helps a lot. As mentioned earlier, the man never showed his face, but authorities recognized his voice. For reasons unknown, Brian Smith was already on their radar, and the moment investigators heard the voice from the recordings, they knew it was him. And that voice sounded just like this.
This is the beaver dam. It was made by ancient beavers 1,000 years ago. You can still see their burial grounds over there. I'm speaking shit, you know that. Anyway, it's an actual beaver dam. I don't know if this GoPro can pick it up, but there's a little beaver house over there. Very pretty out here. It actually looks prehistoric. Prehistoric with a capital P.
What really stood out about this case was that at first, police believed there was only one victim. But during Brian Smith's interrogation, just as the officers were about to wrap up and leave, Smith said something chilling, something that suggested there was more than one.
I'll just go with you.
No, just
Are you guys in a rush to go home?
Are we in a rush?
Yeah.
You want to talk some more?
we're not in a rush. We got
We got all night.
I picked up a very drunk girl. My wife was gone. She was away for the weekend. I had to go home. And I shot her.
That same day, authorities identified the first victim as 30-year-old Kathleen Joe Henry. Born on December 22, 1988, not much was widely known about Kathleen, but she had been active on social media right up until 5 days before those horrifying videos were recorded in the hotel room. She was originally from Eek, Alaska, a remote village with fewer than 500 residents, made up mostly of Native Alaskans. The place was so isolated that you couldn't even drive there from Anchorage. It was over 400 miles away, across rugged mountains and harsh terrain. Kathleen had left that small world behind and moved to Anchorage. She had been divorced and described herself online as a tough Alaska chick since 1997. In 2012, while incarcerated, she earned her GED. Her record stretched back to 2007, including multiple counts of assault, disorderly conduct, drunk driving, resisting arrest, and theft. Her most recent charge was on January 12, 2019, a fourth-degree assault which in Alaska could mean anything from causing bodily harm to throwing bodily fluids on law enforcement or other protected individuals. Despite her past, Kathleen seemed determined to turn things around. She had spoken about feeling hopeful for the future. She had people who cared about her. She was loved, and it was also known that she had a passion for writing poetry. But how she crossed paths with Brian Smith remains a mystery. 2 days after the discovery of the card, police responded to a call about human remains in the southern part of the city, which they believed belonged to the woman in the video. At the time, Brian Smith was not even in Alaska. He was vacationing in Virginia with his wife. You could even see their videos on YouTube, where they truly looked like a happy couple.
Get closer, because you can get away. He can't get down there that fast.
You know, the mommy can come down and kick my ass. Hello, kitty.
Oh, you like that lichen, do you?
Hey, that's Stephanie's roses.
You did.
It's fucking cold out here.
When Smith finally returned to Anchorage, stepping off his flight at Ted Stevens International Airport, he had no idea what was waiting for him. Authorities were already there. He had come back to start a new job at the Residence Inn, another hotel under the Marriott brand. Though he was already working at a Marriott location near University Lake, this new position was supposed to be a fresh start. Instead, the second his feet touched the ground, police moved in. He was arrested on the spot and charged with murder. But here's the real question. Who was Brian Stephen Smith? And how did his wife never suspect a thing? Brian Stephen Smith was born in Queenstown, Eastern Cape, South Africa. His past remains largely a mystery, except for a trail of eerie Facebook posts and an unsettling online presence. He attended Queen's College High School and once ran a guest house in South Africa, with dreams of one day owning his own hotel. But something led him to leave his home country behind and start fresh in Alaska. There's been endless speculation about why he made the move. Some believe his dark impulses didn't begin in Alaska, that he may have been engaging in disturbing activities long before setting foot in the U.S. What we do know for certain is that his life took a sharp turn when he met his future wife, Stephanie, through online gaming. Stephanie was nearly 20 years older than Smith, but that didn't stop them from falling hard and fast. Just 7 months after meeting, they tied the knot in 2014, and Smith relocated to Alaska that same year. Stephanie had a passion for music, but worked as an administrative officer for U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Services, a position that conveniently handled immigration paperwork. Looking back, Stephanie claimed she never suspected a thing.
This happy, doting husband is the man Stephanie Bisland said she married. The man accused of murdering vulnerable women, someone she doesn't recognize.
I've never seen anything that dark in him.
For the record, Brian Stephen Smith had no known criminal record in Alaska. However, details about his past in South Africa were scarce, aside from the fact that he had served in the military. After moving to the United States, Smith worked various jobs over the years, including positions at Alaska Tire Service, Dell Engineers, and the Marriott at University Lake. He appeared to be an ordinary man blending into his new life. Then, in September of 2019, just weeks before the chilling SD card was discovered, he officially became a U.S. citizen. At the time of his arrest, Smith lived in a quiet Anchorage neighborhood called Geneva Woods, sharing a home with his wife and their cat. On the surface, they seemed like an average couple, but Smith's online activity painted a different picture. He had an active YouTube channel where he posted travel vlogs and random videos documenting his life in Alaska. What he didn't realize was that his obsessive need to film everything would later play a crucial role in his downfall. Beyond YouTube, Smith frequently used Quora, a platform where users ask and answer questions, and it was here that another disturbing side of him emerged. He was a blatant racist. His posts revealed a deep-rooted hatred, particularly toward race relations in South Africa and Africa as a whole. His rants were filled with toxic, extremist views that left little doubt about his prejudices. On the other hand, Brian Stephen Smith's wife, Stephanie, insisted once again that she never noticed anything strange about her husband. To her, he was just a hard-working man with a steady job and a quiet life in Anchorage, Alaska. But as we all know, killers can be masters of deception. Behind closed doors, Smith was living a double life. He had a mistress, someone much younger than his wife. Her name was Alicia Youngblood, and she wasn't just any affair. She was a woman who shared his darkest desires. According to Smith himself, their connection was built on twisted fantasies. They didn't just love each other. They fed off each other's hunger for sadistic pleasure. Alicia would send Smith chilling messages, describing violent fantasies of assaulting and even killing someone. And instead of being horrified, Smith was turned on. In Smith's interview, he claimed that it was actually his mistress who first confessed to having dark secrets, secrets that supposedly involved killing someone. However, this turned out to be nothing more than a story. But that story, according to Smith, became his motivation to commit his own crimes. Many people, however, weren't convinced. They believed Smith had violent urges long before he ever set foot in Alaska. After all, he once described the state as the perfect place to carry out heinous acts, boasting that it was easy to commit crimes and dispose of bodies without a trace. Even more disturbing, Smith had a clear preference for targeting Native Alaskan women, making his crimes even more chilling. Now, as for Alicia Youngblood, text messages revealed that Brian Smith had actually confided in her about the killings, long before the SD card was even discovered. In one message, Youngblood asked, "Did you ever find your deleted videos? Just a teeny tiny clip would be the ultimate. Baby, I promise I would erase it. In fact, you wouldn't even have to send a video. Audio would be great." To which Smith replied, "I deleted it at the airport when I came to the US. I was so paranoid that the FBI would scan my hard drive." But then he couldn't help himself. He started describing what he had done. He talked about kicking and slapping the woman's private area. At one point, he even admitted that he felt better believing she had survived, when in fact she had died. But Youngblood's chilling response? "I would have loved to seen that." To which Smith replied, "I didn't know then how serious you were." This isn't the first time Smith talked about his violent urges, especially when it came to sex. In multiple messages, he sent Youngblood videos of his rough and aggressive desires, seemingly testing how far she was willing to go. But Youngblood wasn't the only one he trusted with his dark secrets. Smith also confided in a friend named Ian Calhoun. During the trial, prosecutors presented text messages showing that Smith had told Calhoun about his crimes. In one exchange, he even hinted at wanting to show him Kathleen Henry's body before dumping it along the Seward Highway.
This is from Smith's phone. "I have something to show you, period. Something I can't keep for too long."
The lead detective in the Brian Smith murder case read text messages prosecutors say are from the accused killer.
"Need to find a secluded spot to meet."
The man he texts with pleaded his Fifth Amendment rights and did not have to testify. But messages prosecutors say are between them was presented to the jury.
And he responds, "I was not up, comma, sounds like you were having a lot of fun. I did have fun, wanted to share."
Yet despite this damning evidence, Calhoun was never charged with a crime. As for Youngblood, she eventually cooperated with the police, exposing everything she knew about Smith. But the most disturbing part? CCTV footage from a drive-thru showed her and Smith casually ordering food, while Kathleen's body lay inside the very same truck. And just when the world was waiting for more answers, Alicia Youngblood was gone. In the year 2021, she took her own life, leaving behind more questions than closure. And the horror didn't stop there. As it turned out, Kathleen wasn't Smith's only victim. If Youngblood had lived, she might have uncovered even more chilling details about the man she once called a lover. Because on the day Smith was arrested, he casually confessed to yet another murder.
I went to the garage and I got my little pistol there. I said to her, go shower, and she wouldn't. And I just did it.
While she was on the couch?
Yeah. I just shot her. There was no... The messed up thing, I can tell you honestly, there was no emotion now. That was just... You're not listening to me, go shower, you're not...
When authorities searched Smith's home, they seized multiple electronic devices, hard drives, SD cards, USBs, and among them, they found something horrifying: a video of a woman lying motionless on a couch. That woman was Veronica Abouchuk. Veronica had been missing for months. When news of her disappearance first spread, her daughter, Christy Grimaldi, posted a heartbreaking plea on Facebook. "I don't think anyone should have to go through this, just hoping she is alive and well." Tragically, Veronica's remains had actually been discovered months before Smith's arrest, in April of 2019, but with only a skeleton left and a bullet fragment lodged in her skull, no one knew who she was. It wasn't until Smith's confession that her identity and the gruesome truth came to light. Smith later admitted that he had picked Veronica up from the streets, offering her a warm bed for the night while his wife was out of town. He even let her shower, claiming she smelled. But after that, his monstrous nature took over. Just like Kathleen, Veronica was brutally murdered. Except this time, Smith shot her before dumping her body in the woods. Veronica's tragic past made her story even more heartbreaking. According to reports, her daughter Christy Grimaldi revealed that Veronica never had the chance to raise her and her siblings. She had endured a troubled life, one that Christy believed stemmed from childhood trauma. She shared that her mother had been molested by a Catholic priest in St. Michael, a trauma that shaped her life forever. After becoming a mother herself, Grimaldi had tried to reconnect with Veronica. She even invited her to live with her, discovering that they shared a simple but comforting favorite snack, rice with melted cheese. But no matter how many times Veronica tried to rebuild her life, the streets always pulled her back. And that's how she crossed paths with Valerie Kasler, the woman who would later uncover the key to this entire case. Because Valerie found the one piece of evidence that sealed Smith's fate: the SD card. And how did she find it? Well, Brian Smith had a dark habit, one that would ultimately lead to his downfall. Every night he prowled the streets, searching for vulnerable women, sex workers, runaways, those society overlooked. One night, Brian Smith picked up Valerie Kasler from the streets, and they spent the next 12 hours together. According to Valerie, nothing about him seemed off. He didn't hurt her, threaten her, or even say anything unusual. To her, he was just another client. But everything changed when Smith stopped at an ATM to withdraw money for their date. While waiting in his car, Valerie's curiosity got the best of her. She picked up 2 phones he had left behind, wondering if they shared any mutual contacts or if she'd recognize any pictures. But what she found was far worse than she could have ever imagined. She stumbled upon the horrifying video, the brutal murder of Kathleen Henry. The moment she realized what she was watching, panic set in. Without hesitation, she grabbed the phone and ran. For days, she hid deep in the woods, terrified that Smith would come after her. She had seen what he was capable of, and now he likely knew she had his phone. But despite her fear, Valerie found the courage to do what no one else had. She turned the evidence in. And with that, Brian Smith's reign of terror was finally brought to an end. But justice didn't come easy. It would take 4 long years after Brian Smith's arrest before his trial even began. And despite the fact that he had already confessed before, Smith suddenly changed his tune, claiming he was pressured into admitting to the crimes after being interrogated for 8 hours straight. But the evidence against him was undeniable. On top of that, the trial was brutal. Jurors had to watch the horrifying videos Smith had recorded, footage so disturbing that the judge debated whether to show them in open court. Smith's lawyer fought hard to get the recordings thrown out, but the court wasn't having it. The case was live-streamed, and the whole country watched as the chilling details of his crimes were laid bare.
No. We're going on for no. She's like half an hour at least now. We're going on half an hour now. Come on, please, man. Jesus. Yeah, that's it. Just do it. Just take it.
Then, in February of 2024, the jury delivered its verdict: guilty, on all 14 charges. Smith was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder for the brutal killings of Kathleen Joe Henry and Veronica Abouchuk. But that wasn't all. He was also found guilty of second-degree sexual assault, tampering with evidence, and even mistreating their bodies after death. The jury made it clear that what he did to Kathleen was beyond cruel. She had been tortured, and for that, Smith was handed an automatic 99-year sentence. Veronica's murder added another 30 to 99 years on top of that. His final sentencing was set for July of 2024. When that day finally arrived, the courtroom was packed. Family members of the victims, supporters, and advocates gathered, many of them wearing red to honor Indigenous women who had gone missing or been murdered. Veronica's daughter stood before the court and made it clear she wanted Smith to spend the rest of his days in prison with no hope of freedom, and the judge agreed. In one interview, even her niece expressed hope for a better outcome in the trial.
The Abouchuk sisters' grief too much to hold back as Smith entered the courtroom. For the family, knowing what happened is a small step forward, but healing, a journey with many unanswered questions.
Like why this has happened to their family member.
Family members told KTUU Abouchuk liked her lifestyle of homelessness, of freedom, but they worried.
It was scary. We've always wanted the best for her.
Her niece, Tatak Muma, remembers her auntie Veronica teaching her how to cook and the kindness she had.
Very sweet lady. She loved her kids. She loved everyone. I really miss that.
When she went missing 2 years ago, they worried, but never did they imagine it would end like this.
We didn't know what to think. We were hoping a better outcome.
With that, Smith was sentenced to 226 years behind bars, no chance of parole, no chance of ever walking free again. But the case didn't just bring justice to the victims' families. It shed light on something much bigger, the terrifying reality that Indigenous women in Alaska face every day. Advocates spoke out, demanding change, urging authorities to do more to protect these communities. Because for too long, women like Kathleen and Veronica had been disappearing, and nobody was paying attention. But even after Brian Smith was sentenced, another mystery still lingered, the fate of Cassandra Boskovsky. She was last heard from in the summer of 2019, and then, one day, she simply vanished. Cassandra wasn't just some missing person case. She was a mother of 7, someone who kept in close contact with family and friends. Her sudden silence was alarming. Then, in September of 2019, Cassandra was officially reported missing. But the truth wouldn't begin to surface until detectives got their hands on Smith's phone later that year. Buried in the files were chilling images, photos of a woman lying on the ground, either unconscious or dead. The woman in the pictures bore a striking resemblance to Cassandra. Her family had no doubt it was her. Yet despite the gruesome evidence, the police never officially identified her as a victim. Even Smith himself admitted he had been with the woman in the pictures, but insisted he left her alive. It wasn't until 5 years later, in September of 2024, that a jury finally declared her legally dead. Her family fought tirelessly to prove that she was one of Smith's victims, pointing to small but unmistakable details: a butterfly tattoo, the size of her feet, clear signs that the woman in the photos was Cassandra.
At the Anchorage Police Department, we have not been able to 100% identify the female in the photos as Cassandra.
That is what the lead detective in the Smith case told jurors. Her family disagrees.
Yes, I do, highly.
And what makes you think that?
Because her photos were taken off of his phone and he admitted to taking the photos.
Grateful for a jury's decision in a hopeless situation.
Feeling good about the verdict, but really sad and heartache and just really sad.
When the jury reached its verdict, emotions ran high. There was relief, but there was also deep sorrow. Cassandra's loved ones wanted more than just a legal declaration. They wanted justice. They wanted Smith to be held accountable for her death, just as he had been for the others. But as of now, Brian Smith has not been charged or convicted in connection with Cassandra Boskovsky's death. Her case remains a painful reminder of how many Indigenous women are taken, how many families are left searching for answers, and how long justice can take, if it comes at all. Now, I want to hear what you think. Do you believe Brian had more victims? Could he have been doing this even back in South Africa? Drop your thoughts below. And remember, the scariest monsters aren't the ones in horror movies. They're the ones hiding in plain sight, waiting for their next move. If you like the way we create these videos and you want to help bring more cases like this to light, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Thank you once again for watching.